As all the developers know, there are absolutely no tutorials online for Astro and Sanity, and the ones that you do find, you end up going down a massive rabbit hole of blog articles, reading all sorts of stuff. And this is exactly how I learned to implement visual editing in my Sanity and Astro websites, which for those of you that don't know is the way that clients can edit their site in Sanity with a visual editor so they can see what they're working on, they can see the actual changes that are going to happen on the site in draft mode before they commit them to publish. And like I said, I learned this by going down loads of rabbit holes of articles and all that kind of stuff, and I don't want you guys to have to do the same. So I'm about to take you through and show you exactly how to implement visual editing in your Astro and Sanity website so clients can make changes to their websites themselves and actually see what they're doing while they're doing it.
All right, so I'm in a project here. This is actually, a lot of you would have probably seen this. This is Apollo by Liam Doherty. We're about to add visual editing to it. It currently doesn't have visual editing in. And it's actually a pretty simple process, so if you guys can pay attention for about 30 to 45 minutes, then you'll be able to implement this. If you can't pay attention for 30 or 45 minutes, then don't even bother watching the video because you won't be able to build this. So I'm just going to cd into the web folder, start the server here just to show you guys what we're dealing with. And I'm also going to start a new tab in my terminal. And I'm going to cd Studio and start that as well. And if you guys want to see how we actually set up these Sanity projects to this point, I have another video. We're going to put that up here or here. You can check that out. That's probably the natural first step before this. But either way, watch this, then watch that, and see if you can actually put the two things together. So I'm going to start the studio here. So I'll open the studio. This is on localhost 3333. At the moment, we just have a structure up here, yeah. Then I'm going to open the website on the live server. Another thing as well that I do want to talk to you guys about, which I'm just going to put here in my notes, is about clean classes. So we'll talk about that after. So just load up the dev server here. As you can see, this site is so nice. We just need to get visual editing in here because the problem with Sanity, as everyone knows, and as I told you in the hook, is you can't see what you're editing. And I'm always talking about how our CMS is better than WordPress, and the one thing that we needed to cement that claim was the visual editing. So basically, this is our studio. We've got the structure here and kind of see everything on all the different pages. Liam's is a single page site, by the way. I picked it because it's simple. So we have all the sections here. Now, let me show you how you actually add visual editing up here. So you've heard me talk about ClickUp standard operating procedures loads of times and the checklist of tasks that we work through to make sure we do everything the same way each time, like the assembly line. Also have another video on that, which we're going to put up here as well. So I'm going to ClickUp, and the first step under Sanity visual editing task is to add SSR with the Netlify adapter. SSR is obviously server-side rendering. Your site needs to be server rendered because if you have a static generated Sanity and Astro site, every time you publish your Sanity and you want the changes to go live, you need to run a build step, which takes like 40 seconds. Whereas when it's server-side rendered, those things happen instantly. And anyway, we're going to get into that. So first we need to add SSR. So we're just going to stop our server here. And we're going to say npx astro add Netlify. Hit yes, it's going to install the Astro.js Netlify package. Alright, so looks like, oh, it did work, but that's because I removed React. So now if I say npx astro add React, worked. So that's how you add React to your project. Obviously, to be fair, that was like bloated out because we ended up doing the wrong thing a couple of times. We may cut that out, but I do like you guys to see the authenticity, so we may also leave it in. So now we can say npm run dev. It's working now. Just close all these docs that we had to use to get here. And now, back in Apollo here, and this site is now server rendered. You won't see any visual differences or anything, but that's just the first step to putting the visual editor in. So next, our next step here in Sanity, in ClickUp even, is import the presentation tool in Sanity Config. So you basically want to say import presentation tool, and it should be from, if you have a look at our other project here, and oh, this is going to be in our Sanity config, sorry, by the way. Like this, so we get rid of that. We're going to go over into our Sanity config, which is in our studio folder, import our presentation tool, and then in our plugins here, leave a comma, we're going to say presentation tool in its brackets, and then we're going to have that, and we're going to say preview. Is it preview URL? I'll double check that in a sec, but it's HTTP. And put your local host in here for now, which is going to be 4321. And then after this, so basically you actually want to take this, you want to put it in backticks, and then you want to say with the template string,
key.
Nope, actually, let's go over into all aspects here. So the way it works is firstly you do this. I'll explain what this is in a sec. So this is saying that the Sanity Studio preview URL equals either the URL that's defined in our env file, which we're going to do in a minute, or it's going to be localhost 4321, and then in here you're going to say your preview URL is in backticks, new Sanity Studio preview URL. Then after that, outside the template, you need to add a query string, which is going to be preview equals true. And that just means that when we use the presentation tool, it's going to go to our preview link defined here or in our env variables, and it's going to add this query string at the end so we know it's a preview, right? So now, if we go back into our Sanity Studio here, just restart the server, pull that up. Now we have this presentation tool up here, which won't work by the way, but we now have this presentation tool here, which is going to try and connect. And sort of works. You can see the site, it just can't connect to it. So that's the presentation tool added. The next thing is to define the preview URL in the config. We've done that, and we've added the preview URL to the presentation tool. Next, we need to make a load query, which is like a loader. And basically what this is going to do, I'll include the docs in the description. This is going to load our query, fetch it from the Sanity client, and based on whether we set visual editing as enabled or not, which will be defined by this preview string up here. If that's there, then visual editing is enabled. And then on the second, I'll get back to ClickUp here. And then the loader will then add all the overlays to our project and put it in visual editing mode basically. But let me show you that file. So the way we do this is we'll just take this from the last project we used it in. It's always going to be the same. So we've got load query. So in our lib folder here, we have these two things, getCleanClassName, we'll talk about that later, and load query. So let's pull in load query into our lib folder here. And the way this works, it's all set up. You can find this in the docs or in the description. Import the Sanity client. This takes the query, the params, and whether it's enabled or not. We import the env variable, and we say that this env variable is going to equal true if enabled equals true, which is going to be passed in. The rest of this is getting our token, our API token. So you do need to get an API token. So let me show you that next. What you want to do is go into, actually no, that is one of the next steps. So we'll get to that. Don't worry about that for a sec. And then here you say, if there's no visual editing enabled and no token, throw an error. Perspective, this is deciding whether we're going to look at our drafts, because when you make a change in the visual editor, as you make a change, you're instantly going to see the change in the visual editor. That's a draft. Then when you hit publish, it's going to push to the live link. So we need to, if visual editing is enabled and that query string is in our URL, we need to have this in preview drafts mode, right? And then here, we're just doing a Sanity fetch and enabling our client with all of these different things, our perspective, whether we're going to use the CDN or not, and the stega is the clean thing I was talking about before, and we've returned the data, the source map, and the perspective. So that's how that works. You don't really need to worry too much about that, how that works. You just need to pass the correct stuff to it. So that's your load query. You can just keep that to the side for now. And the next step here after getting your load query is to add your getCleanClassName file, which I'll explain to you as well. So if we get our getCleanClassName file, we're going to pull this over here into lib. So this is our clean-class-name file. It's in lib again. And this just uses stega clean, which actually comes from the Sanity client. So what this basically does is the way you get overlays and stuff on your visual editor, which you'll see when we implement this, and the way that the visual editor knows which part of your page links to which part of Sanity, is it adds these big stega strings, which is like just a big string of text. And sometimes it can get added to the end of your class name without a space, and it ends up messing up your class name and all your styles can be off. So that's what this is for. So we'll bring that down here into the lib folder. And the next step after that is to get your Sanity API key. So I'll show you how to do this. I'm not going to show you guys my actual API key, obviously, and I'll get Max to blur that out. But go to Sanity here, search for your project, go to API, add API token, call this visual editing tutorial. It's a viewer, make sure it's a viewer and save it, and then you can copy your API token from here. And you can put that, if you go to the env file, we actually need to create an env file. So in your web here at the root, create .env, add your API key in there, and then if we just go into our old project, and this is the part that Max is going to need to blur out, I'm going to get the env from the old project, bring it in and change the API token. So here you've got your API token, you've got visual editing enabled true, and your Sanity Studio preview URL, which you will need to change in Netlify when you add your env variables there later. So add them like that. And now that you've got your API key and added your env file, you need to do the enabled code. So basically, let me just show you in Sanity here. You see how you have this presentation and it has the preview string that we put in, right? Well, we need to define whether this is going to be enabled or not based on if that preview string is in the URL. So what we do is we're going to say, and I have this code in the old file just to like kind of check it against. It's this here. So I'll explain how this works. We'll start in index.js, index Astro. And at the very top, you want to say let enabled, and then you want to say const referrer equals astro.url.href. So this is just getting the referrer from the URL. We have access to that from the Astro object. And here we're saying if referrer includes preview, enabled is true, and else enabled is false. Yeah? So that's just going to check for the preview string in the URL. From there, we then need to change our query. So the way you change your query is you just call the load query function. So if I just go in here again and get this, and see how here we already have this home query, right? We'll put that there like that. Take our query out of it from backtick to backtick, not including the backticks. Make sure it's called home. Backtick to backtick again, I'm going to put that in. We're going to import the load query function. And by the way, you see here I'm doing this for home. That means everything that comes in from this query, which is our entire page, is going to be part of the visual editor. But this logo would not be because it uses a normal query. If I wanted to make this logo editable, I would need to use load query here as well. So I'll add this here. Params are empty and I passed enabled here, which has been defined up here. Like that. And the next step is to add the stega to your Astro config. So the way stega works, we go into our Astro config. I'm not 100% certain exactly what this does, it's just a necessary step. Stega, that's an object. And then if I remember right, it's studio URL, but we will just check. Yeah, stega, studio URL. The studio URL is going to be https apollo studio.sanity.studio like that. So you define your stega URL. Stega is to do with the big strings where we have stega clean. And then once you define your stega URL like that, you just need to add the visual editing component to your layout. So if you go into layout here, down here, inside your body below footer, we want to say visual editing, and then it has a Z index property of 1000 to make sure the overlays are on the top. And it has one more property, which is something along the lines of visual editing enabled. I'll just check that here. Enabled, visual editing enabled. And what that means is, at the top here, we also need to say const visual editing enabled and associate it with our env file. Just like that. No, sorry. In here, in the thumbnail. So we're saying if the visual editing enabled is true, then it equals true here. And then we just need to import visual editing like that, and it's from @Sanity Astro visual editing like that. Is that right? That should be right. Oh, it's a named import, so there you go. Like that. I'm good. I did have this error once, so that don't worry about that line for now, we'll sort that out. This code here is how you navigate between pages, so I'm going to put that in my notes to talk about at the end. To navigate between pages like that. So now you have this at the, okay, we're actually sorry, we're not dealing with this now, but now you have this at the top. The only thing I'm a bit worried about here is the Sanity visual editing doesn't seem to be working. If it doesn't, just refresh the page here. It's in here. Okay, so I'm missing the / visual editing in Sanity Astro package. So all that means is we haven't installed the right packages. So if we go over here into web, we're going to say npm install Sanity Astro. We might get a legacy peer depth thing here. Nope, worked. Okay, so we're still not getting the package. Let's have a look. Maybe we just need a different version of it. Sanity Astro 2.2.1, whereas in this one here, we have Sanity Astro 3.1.4. So let's just, we're going to say npm install Sanity Astro at 3.1.4. Next thing is going to be Sanity Client 6.210. select at sanity client at 6.210, and then the next one, oh, we don't need the other one, so let's just install them with. Okay, so what's the problem? Visual editing as well, so we'll set it at sanity visual at latest. And then we'll just say legacy tdex at the end, like that. That looks to have worked now. So if we just get my vape out of the way, that looks to have worked now. Try it here. I mean, there's a few different options of why this might not have worked. That Sanity Astro does not provide. This happens a lot. Here we go. You know the problem we had with React before? We're now gonna have to do the same thing here. Comment that out. Comment that out. And then we're gonna say mpx astro add Sanity Astro at latest. Install the dependencies. Alright, that messed up because you can't do at latest. Alright, that's my bad. So instead, mpx astro add at Sanity Astro. There. Now it's going to have done this, but I just want you all to know that even though it adds sanity here, it's not right. It's sanity integration that you're looking for, and that's why I had so many problems. So that, bring that back. Then we should go back in the package.json here. Okay, these all should be working now. So actually what could be the problem, and this is, by the way, is the most common problem I run into. We're coming out that and that. All of this is to do with conflicting peer dependencies. There's SAS problems here. Sanity client. And now we should be able to open that. Hey, my bad. And that. And run it. No, it's not working. Does not provide. Oh, got it. This was struggle. If you guys get this problem, this gets me every time, and I always forget how to solve it. This is how you solve it. Get rid of these fucking brackets. For some reason, the Sanity Astro package installs it completely wrong. It gives you the wrong integration, it names it wrong, it does the import wrong, it's all fucking wrong. And hence why nobody's able to follow the docs, and hence why I'm doing this tutorial for you guys in the first place. So I've started it now. As you can see, we've got the website here. And if we go over here and refresh, we have visual editing enabled. Now, remember I spoke to you guys about clean stega? Well, notice how my buttons aren't working. It seems to be, I'm not sure exactly why this problem happens, but it seems to be anywhere where the classes are set with JavaScript, it's weird. So if you just wrap this in brackets and say clean class, sorry, it's getCleanClassName, like that, and now your button's gonna work. There you go. So anything where your layout looks messed up or not how it's supposed to be, you just need to use getCleanClassName on it. Usually in title blocks as well. You need to say, are we even using a title block? No, we're not in this one, okay. So that's visual editing enabled. Click somewhere, it will take you to that place in Sanity. You can edit it. Let's see, I take the Y of Guernsey here. Without even publishing, you can now, and it might take a second sometimes, it'll take a second to reload. It's weird how it's not reloading. And the wires come off, and that's with no publish. A lot of this might be because we have bad internet here at the Digital Greenhouse, but either way, normally you just take that Y off and show you again, hey, the E off here. The page should just change and the E will be gone. a lot of this can be, you see here it's loading, it's just because we've got bad internet. If I actually reload the page, then you'll be gone. But if we go to the actual website, those are not gone, and that's because we haven't published. So that's to do with the preview drafts and published thing in the load query and all that. So either way, let me just put Guernsey back here and publish. And now you can literally change any part of this website just by clicking on it. Obviously things that aren't in Sanity won't have a blue overlay on them, and if you want to use the links, obviously if I click this button, it's going to take me to the button. If you want to use the button, just turn edit off up here, right? So you want to, basically, that's everything for the page. But if you want to have like your logo and that editable as well, all you need to do is go into your index here and just change your query. So just take, I would copy and paste this load query just to make sure you use it right. Put it under logo here. Change the name to logo and take the logo query. Just put it in there like that. And now your logo is also editable. So if you click there, go straight to the logo. So that's how you make everything editable. You can view that on mobile or whatever. But how do you change pages? Because obviously when I change pages, it's going to remove my preview string from up here. So the way you do that is with the little piece of code I showed you earlier. So we add this piece of code. Let me just take it from the other thing and I'll explain what it's doing. So this piece of code needs to go on every page. Why is it not in here? Have we not put it on this one yet? Okay, let's just pull up MacQGs. Let me go into our index here. Yeah, and here we have this little, well, that's not it. It's not in any of these files. What's going on? In my site here. Yeah, here we go. So this is what you're looking for. These script tags, yeah? Put them in each page. And make sure you do put them in each page, by the way. Now, Liam's site is not a multi-page site, so it's not going to apply here. But either way, you add this function, append preview to links, and this is checking for all A tags. And then when they're clicked, if there's a preview string in the URL, it's just adding it back before the screen actually changes. And if not, it's not doing anything. So that would be how you navigate pages, and then you just need to make sure you would go to your other page and just swap out your load query, add your enabled code up here, and then you'd have all the pages working. So now, yeah, you can literally come in here. All they have to do, they can edit in structure still. They no longer need the deploy tab because obviously you don't need to run a build, and this deploy tab from Netlify is just to run builds. So now they can literally just edit everything visually, and they still have the, just like WordPress actually, they still have the visual editor and the structure editor, so they can sort of play with both. Just gonna shut the door. And we actually bumped into another issue here, which is good, is these here don't have the right styles on them. Just clear the spot out. I'm gonna go have a go at them in a minute to carry on. That'd be a good balloon parade, me going and fucking kicking off at the Canon company. It's a good thing we're not using a Canon camera, right? Right, I think the noise is over. So anyway, you've got this impact mentoring thing here where the class is clearly not working, so I'm just gonna have to remind myself which component that is. But yeah, so impact mentoring. So those are just mentoring things. Is it this one? I'm just gonna go and put a border around them until I know which one it is. I just open Slack. Actually, I did just open Slack, right. Yeah, there's the one above that. Basic with image gallery. Just gonna quickly put a border on here. Oh, it's not the right one. Alright. Just go over here and we'll have a look which one it is. Find the sections, our programs. And we can just search in here for our programs. What? It's not in here. Oh, I can't find the section. By the way, the reason the cars look fine and work fine there is because we're not in preview mode. We don't need to clean stega when you're not in preview mode. Basic image section it's called, right? So we go into this basic image section. Right, so we've got this basic image section here, and we just want to make sure. So where? So it could be the ID. It's also going to be these cards. That's an icon card, and then yeah, here. So wrap this, these backticks, in brackets, and then just say getCleanClassName like that. And now if we go over here, these now work. So that's how you actually get, like, if you have styles messed up or whatever, you just use clean stega to actually get them working, and now every part of the site's editable. And we actually, obviously, from here we'll train our clients on how to use it and stuff, but since we've had this visual editor, everything has been so much easier to use for them. And let me just, I do a few notes in my phone of like things I wanted to cover. So I've covered how you do page navigation, I've covered the query string, I've covered clean classes and how to navigate between pages. So the only other thing I want to cover with you guys is when you push this, it's gonna look like it doesn't work. So there's two things you need to do. The first thing you need to do, right, is we need to add your env variables to Netlify. But the other thing you need to do is change all the references to localhost. So if you just go in here and change this to HTTPS, and what's Liam's link? It's apollo.gg, right? So we'll change this to that. If there's any other mention, we don't need to change it in the env file though. Okay, so we need to change this to that, and then we can literally say, let's do a test. Well, we don't need to do a test build, it's server rendered, so just push this to GitHub now. Push for tutorial. I'm the only one working on this. I would make my comment messages cleaner if there's other people working on it. So I'm now going to push that, and if you did that and got to that point, it wouldn't work and you wouldn't know why. So the way that you fix that is, I'm going to Netlify here. We're going to log in. We're going to go to our domains. We're going to choose Apollo Guernsey. We're going to go to sites, and choose Apollo Guernsey. Right, and then you want to go to site configuration, down to environment variables, click add a variable, import from a .env file. Then you want to go into your env file, copy and paste the lot into here, and just change this to be your actual URL. So yeah, you just need to make sure you actually change the URL here. So is it Apollo Guernsey.gg? I always like to put the slash at the end and make sure there's no slash there. And now that's all scopes, all deploy context, import variables. And your deploy might have failed, it might not have. But either way, you want to go back and you want to say clear cache and retry with latest branch commit, because now it's going to do it with the env variables that you need. Just wait for this now to build. Alright, so the build, no config file was defined. Alright, I'm not sure if that worked. Okay, it did work. So now if we go to Apollo Guernsey, and the last tip, by the way, which a lot of people will forget, is you need to deploy your Sanity Studio. So you want to say literally just Sanity deploy. It will ask you for a name, but if you've already deployed it before, it will just use the same name. So here's the site loaded, close everything else. Apollo Studio. And by the way, I've noticed that the Sanity deploy is usually like a 5-second thing, but when you're using visual editing, it takes fucking ages. That was quite quick actually. Now we have this presentation tool here, and if we go in here, it works. Thank God for that. And yeah, now this is live here, apollo.guernsey.gg, and here you have the actual website. So if I go in here now, select this title, and let's say I'll just take the word empowering out. You can see it loading. It's probably going to be because of the internet connection and stuff. I'll just refresh it. You won't usually have to refresh it on poor internet, so There you go, and now you can see the word empowering's gone, but if we go to the live website, the word empowering's still there. And the only way that's actually going to change, so if I publish, and by the way, this can take like 5-10 seconds sometimes, and I think that's just because the CDN does cache it. But here we go, young people in Guernsey through positive activities and mentorship. Now if I put empowering back, like that, and hit publish, put empowering back. Sometimes I've got to do that twice. Sometimes it might not be published here as well. And then, yeah, like I said, that's just because the CDN is caching things, but either way, give it any second. And the thing is, in here, in your Astro config, you can choose whether to use the CDN or not, but we've set false. But when you're using server rendered, it should be true. So in our load query, we are actually using the CDN if the visual editing is enabled, right? So the CDN might cache sometimes is the problem. But then if we can turn cache control off, it's going to annoy me now. Alright, this is taking a fair while, you know. There's back. Okay, so that's just about caching and stuff. Either way, that is how you add Sanity visual editing to the project. We're hopefully going to include any code and references and docs that you need in the description. And yeah, that's how you do it. If you want to keep getting all of this free value in your inbox each week, then click the link, go to our website and leave your email. You can sign up for our free email list. You're going to get all my tips and tricks, all of our tutorials, client stories, projects we finished, everything. So click the link and leave your email now.